As developers, when we build applications, we will always try and provide all of the information and calculations that we think might be useful to you. But sometimes when you're working with an application, as the user that is interacting with this data every day, you will think of something that we might have missed, and you want to do a calculation on the data. Now, what we will often see is you start copying that data out to Excel and you do your calculations there. Maybe you even bring the calculator out and do it manually. But thankfully, there is a way that you can do it directly in the application. So if I select a range of columns, and I can do this on rows also, I can right click and we have this create calculation option. And if I click on that, we have some basic mathematics available to us. And in this case, what I want to do is take the average of my FY21 months that I selected as my input. And when I click OK, I now see that I have the average for each of the rows. And I'm also going to do a similar thing, but instead I'm going to take the maximum value. So I'll call that peak for FY21. So I've got my average and I've got my peak. Now, what I can do, so we saw there were 6 or so options available to us there when I'd selected a range of columns. But if I select just 2, and in this case, I'm going to select things that we have already calculated. And this is where you can start doing calculations on top of other calculations. So all of a sudden you can get to slightly more complex ways of viewing your data. But with just 2 columns selected, all of a sudden this screen looks a little bit different, and I also have some basic arithmetic options. So in my case, I want to see the peak divided by the average, but the options I have here, because of the way I selected them, I have my average divided by my peak as the option. So if I press this little recycle icon, it will swap those around, and now I can do the peak divided by the average, and I will call that the peak factor. You'll see there's also a couple of other options in here, so I could do one as a percentage of the other, or a percentage of the variance between the 2 values. If I click OK, and we get our peak factor, but it is formatted the same way that the rest of the data in this view is, and that's not very useful to me. What I wanted to do is see that as a percentage, so I can also right click on there, and we have this set format option. So I can choose percentage from that. And all of a sudden I have my percentages available. So it's giving me a little bit more data available. Now, one thing that I really would like to press upon you is that if you are doing these sort of ad hoc calculations and you do find something that is really useful to you, chances are that it might also be useful to some of the other users of the application. So this is the sort of thing where I would really suggest you go and talk to the developer and say, I did this calculation and I found it really useful, because then your developer can take that and potentially apply it to the actual core application, and then everyone can benefit from that information. These are the things that we like to know are useful to you.